Good afternoon, and my apologies for starting late. I am going to start the subcommittee in place of Chairman Subcommittee while he presents another bill across the hall. And so I appreciate I was next door presenting a bill. So y'all all know how this time of year goes. But thank you for being patient and understanding. So with that, this is the Education Instruction Subcommittee. It is Tuesday, March the 23rd, and Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll? Do I need to go in order?
Representative Dixie.
Oh.
Representative Griffey. Here. Representative Harris. Here. Chairman Haston. Here. Representative Hicks. Here. Representative McKenzie. Here. Chairman Reagan. Here. Representative Warner. Here. Representative Weaver. Chair Lady Moody. Chair Lady, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jan. And so with that, I will gavel us into order. And I thank you again. We have with us number one is House Bill 0074. And Chairman White, we will roll that a few spaces till he can get back in here. Number two, House Bill 103 has been taken off notice. And next we have House Bill number three. It's number three on the calendar. House Bill 0535 by Representative Hawk. He did. I just remembered that. Okay, we're going to roll that one a couple of spaces. He will be in here for anybody that's here for that one. And number four says House Bill 0795 by Chairman Howell is rolled 1 week. Maybe I should have done all this first so y'all can decide if you needed to stay or not. Number five, House Bill 1570 by Cochran is taken off notice. And number six, House Bill 800 by Representative Griffey, roll 1 week. And then that brings us to number seven, House Bill 1535 by Chairman Weaver, who is also, I think, in another committee. And she has on how, I'll go ahead and take care of this. Number eight, House Bill 1536 is taken off notice. How about number nine? I think I see you down there. House Bill 0745. Chairman, I have a motion and a second. Proceed, please.
Thank you. And do we have an amendment on this? I think as well. I'm making sure I have the right one here that y'all have. 5574.
That is what I have. Yes, that's correct. So, all right. Thank you. Motion and a second on the amendment. Go ahead, Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What this bill does is it would offer our high school seniors the opportunity to earn a National Career Readiness Certificate by taking the ACT Work Keys assessment. For those not familiar with what the National Career Readiness Certificate is, it is a nationally recognized, evidence-based credential that certifies essential skills for workplace success. The NCRC is used as the foundation of the National Association of Manufacturers Credential Program, as well as the credentialing programs in information technology, energy, and the construction industries. The NCRC is recognized by 816 employees in Tennessee. Simply put, this legislation helps connect our students with the workforce. And that's something I've been really passionate about, working in public education, third generation public educator. I think it's important to get our kids prepared for the next class and the next test, but I think it's most important to get them prepared for their first career. And with that, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you for that explanation. And this does rewrite the bill, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, members, does anyone have a question for the sponsor? All right, question's been called. All in favor of amendment 005574, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the amendment goes on the bill. And Chairman, do you have any closing statements?
I don't. I'll be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
All right. All right, members, we're back on the bill. Any questions? All right, previous question has been called. All in favor of House Bill 0745, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. I get to say that. House Bill 745 goes on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, I see. I see. I'm sorry. Couldn't see you. Are you ready to present? All right. This is back to number 1 on the calendar, House Bill 0074. And Chairman White, you have a motion and a second, and I believe there's an amendment.
It's the amendment that we are working off of. Would that be real quick?
Take your time.
Well, you tell me, which amendment do y'all have? Oh, it's 5556.
Correct, that's what I have.
Yes.
All right, motion and second on your amendment. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, committee. The bill that we're bringing before you today is called the House Bill 74, which is the Achievement School District. Now, really, what this bill is doing is not addressing anything about the merits of the Achievement School District, but for those that may be new to the committee or to the legislature over the past couple of years, it is a federal mandate that the state have an intervention plan for low-priority schools in our state. So back in 2010, which was the first year I came into the legislature, hard to believe this is our 12th year now, we passed the ASD legislation, and in 2012 we started the Achievement School District. And with the purpose of that is to remove from local control those schools that are consistently failing in low priority in the bottom 5%. And so that's how it was established, and each of these ASDs are on a 10-year contract. And when we started it, excited to maybe get it started, but there really wasn't a good transition plan for how that these schools will move back out to their LEA after the 10 years. And so basically that's what this bill is putting in place a good transition plan, because we have some ASDs that are doing very well, the charters, some that are struggling, like a lot of our public schools are. And so we're trying, this bill defines how those schools will move out. Let me kind of just give you a few talking points. This legislation seeks to improve the state's ability to deliver an intensive intervention to our most underperforming schools and the students they serve, and provide strong accountability for the Achievement School District schools as the state's most rigorous turnaround strategy. The bill will also provide clarity and stability for existing ASD schools and future ASD schools by establishing a clear framework by which schools can exit from the ASD governance by way of multiple exit pathways. The bill basically puts in place 3 pathways that they can exit. For those of you who may remember, we created a bill and passed called the Tennessee Charter School Commission, where we put 9 members across the state, 3 elected by the Speaker of the House, 3 by the Speaker of the Senate, and 3 by the Governor, to establish this commission, who now have their own director, which is led by Tess Stovall, to run the commission. And so this particular legislation gives 3 pathways. One is it helps the LEA, or excuse me, the ASD can return to their LEA of origin. For example, I represent Shelby County Schools. They can return to the Shelby County system if they so desire. It also gives a direct pathway to our state charter commission. They are an authorizer. Not to get in the weeds too much, because we also have Ms. Eve Carney and Charlie Buffalino of the State Department of Education to kind of give us some detailed information. But anyway, you can apply directly to the State Charter Commission, which was formerly the state school, or the state board. We took that away from them last year, and we're putting it on the Charter Commission. The third pathway is they can remain under ASD guidance, which requires 60% of the parents in that particular school. If they love that school and their community and everybody's happy, and 60% of the parents say, hey, we're happy, we want to stay like we are, then they can also do that. And then there's a small part in there about what do you do with the facilities. And it gives a pathway to where these charters, ASD schools, can either lease for the next 3 years or buy the school property from the LEA. Having said that introductory remarks, Madam Chairman, if we could allow Ms. Carney to come up and kind of explain some more parts of the bill, I'd be glad to.
And is it all right with you, committee, if we go out of session to hear from the testimony? All right, seeing no objection, we're out of session. And as always, if you'll state your name and which department you're with. Thank you.
Charlie Bufalino with Assistant Commissioner of Policy and Legislative Affairs for the Department of Education.
Eve Carney, Department of Education, Chief of Districts and Schools.
So I think to start out, first off, thank you to Chairman White and Leader Lamberth for carrying this bill. And I think that summary really is the heart of sort of what this bill does and what we're setting out to do here. I think for purposes of context, I think there's been a lot of talk over the course of the last year as we have come up near this 10-year mark of the ASD being in existence, of the need for some additional clarity on what transition would look like. There's been a lot of talk, I think, ahead of this committee and others about ASD 2.0, what will this new framework look like in the future? But in order to execute and implement on that, there needs to be a clear transition plan for schools that are currently in the Achievement School District. I think the first step in that process started with the passage of a bill last year that Chairman White carried. I believe it was Public Chapter 777, which established that the department had to submit a transition plan to the General Assembly. We conducted a series of stakeholder events to solicit some input for a number of months and submitted that report as statutorily required to the General Assembly on January 1st of 2021. One of the issues that was identified through that process was additional clarity needed in statute of what happens when schools hit that 10-year mark. This bill really, I think, seeks to clarify that, as Chairman White said, and lay out some clear pathways. It's all based on performance. This bill is about holding our schools accountable that are within the state's most rigorous intervention. There are some schools, as Chairman White said, that are chronically underperforming that likely need to close and be returned to the LEA. This is laid out in the bill. There are also schools that have showed really strong growth and have either met that priority exit status, which we think should give them some earned autonomy in terms of having the option to go to the Charter Commission directly. And that also there is some language in there that if adequate growth is being showed, that could be granted sort of through discretionary authority by the commissioner. The important point, I think, to stress there is in no way, shape, or form is that a guarantee that these schools are going to be approved or authorized. The Charter School Commission would retain full autonomy to make those decisions as a body. The legislation articulates rulemaking authority for them to go about that. They'll get to decide what that process of application looks like and ultimately gets to decide whether or not to approve those schools that would go on that pathway. And Chairman White, I think, spoke to the facilities legislation for schools to transition, obviously having a sort of short-term 3-year period by which facilities could continue to be leased or sold to them by the school district is just important, I think, for stability for students and families. So I will defer to my colleague, Dr. Eve Carney, who leads this work at the department, if she has some introductory remarks. Otherwise, we're happy to take any questions that the committee has. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you all for your time today. I would just echo some of Charlie's sentiments to say that the Achievement School District is an intervention. It was an intervention that was the original legislative intent. What we know over time is that as we move closer to that 10-year mark, it is critical to make some key decisions about how we seamlessly return students while also ensuring a higher performing seat in these transition decisions and transition plans. And so I'm happy to take any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you for that. Members, any questions for our guest? All right, seeing none.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you all for coming. I will gavel us back into session. Chairman White.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And members, so basically what we're trying to do, this is a transitioning plan as we're approaching, I think we're on 8 years now, we're approaching the transition out of the achievement school. We've had a lot of successes. We have learned a lot. We're still constantly working on how we can better improve the state takeover of these schools. But this has been a good program that we have had in place for all these years. But now, as they're approaching maturity of coming out, we want to be able to support those who are doing very good by giving them options of where they best will fit, so they have a long future of helping our children in our state. And those that are not performing, we just want good schools, whether they're charters, public schools, or any of the other options. But that's basically the gist of House Bill 74, and I appreciate passage into out of committee.
Thank you so much for that and for bringing the bill. Yes, I see Representative Griffey with a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman White, for bringing this bill. I don't want to, pick at a wound or anything, but I think it may be a fair assessment that we're all wish we as a state had made more progress in the Achievement School District's success, that we haven't got there yet. We've had some, as you indicated. I just want to fully encourage the department to make some success in that area. We need every one of Tennessee's students to be able to read, write, and function, get a good job, perform in the workplace. And thank you for bringing this. I'm going to support this bill and this measure. I want to support the Department of Education and their mission. I really, if it's more money we need, I'm one voice, one vote. I'm going to spend more money to make sure every student in Tennessee is performing at or above level. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Chairman White.
Thank you, Representative Griffin. I really do appreciate that. One thing good about Tennessee, we are always looking for how to improve. Has this been the perfect plan? It's been a good plan, and we've worked very hard at it. What we have found out over the past 10 years is how hard it is to work with young people who come out of situations where there's extreme poverty, extreme issues, and then to educate them at the same time. But we're continuing to work on and find solutions, and I appreciate your support.
Yes, Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to that point, and I just want to do a shout out for Carroll Academy in our school district, serves 6 counties for individuals that are having trouble performing in school, and it does a fabulous job. And I would invite this entire committee and the full education committee to come tour Carroll Academy with me and the mayor there, and show you how good Carroll Academy can do. And I think it's a model this committee may want to look at and take a further dive into. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Next up, Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a question to the sponsor, and it may be, in the weeds, but I think it can be pretty significant, and that's about the physical plant. These districts were, I guess, renting spaces, or, the LEAs own the space, but in terms of as you transition, if there are successful schools that may transition to a charter school, I know you say at or below, but below can be $1, right? And at market value could be market value. So what are we doing with the buildings and grounds?
From what I
Chairman
understand,
White.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Chairman White.
Okay. From what I understand now, an ASD school, which is a school that was underperforming in the state, directly takes it over. So they took over not only that school, but the building that the students were in. And whether it be a charter or they're run by the ASD program, they pay a lease and all that to the LEA. What this bill has is it puts in place where you can work out an agreement for facilities. Well, that's another problem we've had for really the last 8 years is, is maintenance and repair of the facility that they are in. So this particular bill says, for the next 3 years, if you're going to stay in that school, we want the LEA of which you are part of, you're able to lease that for 3 years and or buy based upon market value, at or below market value, which is something that will be worked out between the entities at that time, the LEA and the charter or ASD.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. So I understand that with reasonable conversations, but who becomes the final arbiter if there's an issue? If one person says it's 1 million and one person says it's 8 million, and they both have their own appraisals that lean toward them. Is there any verbiage in here that says who becomes the final arbiter?
Yeah, may have to get the department back up here. From what I understand, this is a part of a legal process where you have those who do this for a living, and you have a fair market value of what that property is worth, and then there's a negotiation between the two. As far as what you come up with. If you got the difference between 1 million and 8 million, obviously you've got to have some help. But if you want more detail, we can ask the department to address that.
Representative McKenzie, is that what you would like?
Yes, please.
All right. We will go out of session to hear from the Department of Ed. Welcome back.
Charlie Bufalino with the Department of Education. So if I understand the question, it's who's the final arbiter on what constitutes at or below market value? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Representative McKenzie.
So yes and no. Yes, but it's also, because the whole at or below sounds like there's going to be a negotiation, right? And it sounds like, again, and that negotiation can take on a final price, can take on grounds and facilities, what comes with it, what we don't want, the outbuilding. It could get complicated because we have pretty expansive facilities.
So I'll take it in two parts. So I think first you've got to determine what the value is, and the bill lays out that both the charter operator and the district will go get their own separate appraisals to determine that value. If there is not an agreement then within those two, they would find a third party agreed on that would sort of be the final determiner of the value. Once that value is agreed to, ultimately it's the LEA, the district, or the local government who owns the facility that gets to determine. This language would just say you cannot sell it above that market value. And at or below market value is fairly standard language with these sorts of things. I don't anticipate that a district would choose to sell it for less that value that's determined. But really all this does functionally is say that they wouldn't be able to sell it beyond that amount that has been agreed to. Above is what I should say.
Representative McKenzie.
I actually think that's better language than what's here. That kind of sets it. You won't sell it above the market value. To me, there's just seems to be a lot of ambiguity with that. So
I see. Thank you, Chairman Dixie, Leader Dixie. Was your question for our guest?
Yeah, I think that he may be more well suited to. You may be more well suited to answer this. And this is just for clarification. It says that the lease payments will go toward at the end, if they choose to buy it, the lease payments will go toward the payment of purchasing of the building. Does that count for just the 3 years after the lease, or just from the beginning of when the charter school, the inception of the charter school?
Great question, Chairman. Just for those 3 years. So the idea behind that language is if a district chooses to lease for that 3-year period, and that's the only period that's guaranteed, and then at the end of that 3 year, they were to decide to sell it, any payments made on those leases would go toward that final cost. Currently, for a school in the ASD, they are not paying to use those facilities. That's part of the agreement under the existing ASD, so it would just be for those 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions while we have our guest? All right, seeing none, thank you again.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We'll go back into session. All right, Chairman White.
Thank you. And I may also add to that. Now, if the ASD during the time, if they have put in $100,000 worth of new windows or HVAC system, that will be part of the negotiation as when you do the fair market value. With that, any other questions, committee? We'll either answer it or find you an answer, but appreciate this.
All right. Well, seeing no other questions, then committee, are you ready to bring this to a vote? On the amendment first, and this was amendment, let me get that number right, 005556. All right, all in favor of putting the amendment on the bill, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the amendment goes on the bill. And any closing remarks on your bill?
The only closing remarks I would say is everybody on this committee and Chairman Subcommittee would say, Tennessee, we want to be number one in education. And that's where we're moving, and we're just piece by piece by piece so that we can achieve that. We know this past year of the disruption, but that's not going to slow us down. We're going to move forward, and this is just one piece in doing so.
And with those closing remarks, committee, you ready to vote? All right, all in favor of House Bill 0074 as amended, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, your bill passes on to full. Chairman White, you have a few more bills. Would you like to stay a while with us? If you'll go to number 10 on the calendar, we have House Bill 0472. Your bill's been motioned and seconded.
Thank you, Chair Lady. And members, this is really a simple bill. This allows, basically read here, that teachers as defined and other full-time permanent employees of a public charter school, including public charter school authorized by the Achievement School District or the Commission, that they will be eligible to participate in the group insurance plans of our state. And so basically this is including our charter school teachers and employees into our state benefits plan.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions? All right, question's been called. All in favor of House Bill 0472, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, seeing none, House goes on to the full Education Instruction Committee. And I believe you have number 11 on our calendar, House Bills 0754. Motion and second.
Thank you, Chair Lady. I'm trying to make sure I have the
That's
right
okay.
one. What I would like to do with 754, I had asked for a guest to be here today. I think I talked to Chairman Subcommittee. This bill has got a lot of moving parts. Members, what it deals with establishing that all of our schools have computer science programs in all the schools. As we all know, the world we're in, if you don't have any type of knowledge coming out of high school about computer programming, coding, then you're kind of behind the game. So what we're working on is a particular bill to move towards that. Right now, there's still some moving parts. I would just like to present the bill to the committee. I have the guest here, let him present that, and then I will either roll this. I know we've got one more committee. If there's anything that can be worked out this year, we will do so. But right now, I'd just like to present it.
All right, that sounds good.
And my guest is Mecca. Yeah. I'm going to let him pronounce his last name. I always mess it up, but M-E-K-A is the first name. Yes,
And
sir.
Chairman, let me first take us out of session. All right, we are out of session and in the proper order.
Thank you so much, Chairman. And joining me will also be, who will introduce himself in a moment. I'm sorry, am I speaking clearly?
There it is. Thank you.
And to Chairman Subcommittee, as well as Chairwoman Moody, and the other members of the subcommittee. I am Meka Eguekwe. I am founder of Code Crew, a Memphis-based nonprofit that teaches kids and adults to write software and to think computationally. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you today on behalf of the CS4TN Coalition. It's a group of business, technology, and education organizations that are supportive of Chairman White's HB 754, which seeks to ensure that students have access to at least one computer science course while in high school. The CS4TN Coalition includes Apple, Amazon, Code.org, Code Crew, the Tennessee Rural Education Association, the College Board, the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Nashville Tech Council, who's sitting here with me at the table today, the Greater Memphis IT Council, the Nashville Tech Council, the Chattanooga Tech Council, Williamson Inc., Microsoft, Seeding Success, Schneider Electric, Thinking Media, Learning Blade, Tennessee Career Awareness and Preparation System, and TechNet. So clearly there's widespread support. HB 754 builds off legislation that Chairman White and Senator Akbari carried in 2019 that required the Tennessee Department of Education to work with stakeholders in developing a computer science state plan that with recommendations and strategic goals for ensuring that students are ready for the technology jobs of today and tomorrow. HB 754 is rooted in those recommendations and includes a course offering measure at the high school level to be phased in over a 5-year period with the extension of an additional year if needed. Computer science professional development funded by the state for elementary and high school teachers. Development targets to ensure equity in computer science participation so that students traditionally underrepresented in computer science, in particular rural communities, but also African American and Hispanic students, have a fair shot at participating in these courses. An annual report developed by the Department of Education to provide us with the information we need to ensure that Tennessee is on track to be successful and to help us understand for future support where future support may be needed. And finally, it calls for an annual convening of K-12 and higher education to ensure alignment and collaboration relating to computer science courses. And so why is this bill needed and why is it now? At the moment, computer science courses are available in less than half of our public schools in our state, yet these types of jobs are some of the fastest growing both in Tennessee and across the nation. Code.org indicates that there are approximately 7,500 open, high-paying computer science jobs available in the state today, and Tennessee needs to be producing a workforce that can meet these demands. Furthermore, fellow southern states are moving towards preparing students for the jobs of tomorrow, and at least 4 states that share a border with Tennessee have a policy that requires access to computer science learning, and another 2 border states have students that take computer science or technology courses as part of high school graduation requirements. And so Florida is a state that doesn't border Tennessee, but they also have a course offering requirement. And in fact, just this year, another 2 states passed laws requiring computer science courses for every public high school, and that's Illinois and Mississippi, bringing the total of states that have this course access measure to 21. I believe that Tennessee is the best place in the country to do business, but the coalition, which includes business interests, is concerned that this won't continue if the state isn't giving its students the same level of access and opportunity. The coalition is pleased that this bill complements other actions already taken across the state, such as the release of the K-12 computer science standards by the Department of Education, as well as related funding activities by in the governor's future workforce initiative to support STEM education like computer science, and the employment standard to get educators the training they need to provide instruction in computer science. Of course, no one can overlook the difficult challenges that our districts and schools have faced this last year, especially with COVID, but the COVID experience has made it crystal clear that our students need basic computer science skills, with measures in place to help schools, such as a 5-year timeline that includes a 2-year planning period, professional development support, and the option for an additional year waiver, which would extend the implementation to 6 years if needed. The coalition has full confidence that our schools and districts can overcome any barriers. An amendment is being offered that makes the bill and includes clarifications and slight modifications, such as language permitting more flexible use of the high school professional development funds, for example, for practice exams if a new teacher certification is needed. Included allowing high schools to utilize professional development funds more than once in the 5-year period if funds allow to address changes or unexpected needs, such as retirements or teacher loss or student demand and so forth. Clarification that one high school districts have the full 5-year period to implement. So if your district only has one high school, you have that full 5 years instead of immediately in the third year. Addition of industry certification goals, and allowing a 1-year waiver for any reason deemed valid by the department and not just COVID related. You probably have noticed that this bill was given a sizable fiscal note, which admittedly caught the coalition off guard, as we assumed based on our review that it would cost around $2 million for the entire 5-year initiative. This fiscal note assumes the need, the current fiscal note assumes the need to hire many new teachers, whereas the coalition assumed that the current state model, which trains existing teachers, would be used. So we disagree with the fiscal note, and we're disappointed by it, but we hope there is a way to address this moving forward. Let me just conclude by just sharing a little about myself, if I may. I am from Tennessee, raised in Memphis, and I had the good fortune in the 1980s, my daughters would say back in the 19s, to take computer science in school at East High School in Memphis. And that was foundational for me to go on to Morehouse College and earn a bachelor's in computer science, go on to Duke University and earn a master's in computer science, and have a 19-year career as a professional software developer. It enabled me to raise my children such that my wife could be a stay-at-home mom. It enabled me to have a very fruitful 6-figure income career. And that foundation it's something I want every child, especially in our rural districts where there are too many districts that do not have access to computer science education, to have these kinds of opportunities. And so I implore you to recognize that we have a real opportunity, that Arkansas did this 6 years ago, Georgia did this 2 years ago, Mississippi did it this year, and the governor there will be signing it tomorrow. I remember when I grew up under Lamar Alexander as our governor, who was an education governor. We were leading in all sorts of educational initiatives. We lead in many areas, but in this critical, important one, we are ahead of only Louisiana in the South when it comes to access to computer science education for all our kids. And so that's why I stress I want for every high school kid in Tennessee to have the same opportunity I had. And I'd like to give Alex Curtis from the Nashville Tech Council a moment, if I may. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. And introduce yourself and where you're from, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and Chair Subcommittee and Chairwoman. Wow, I need to start over there. Sorry about that. Sorry. Yep. Chairwoman Moody and Chair Subcommittee, thanks for the opportunity. I will not be as eloquent already as Meka is, but I wanted to represent a few of the points of the tech industry here in Middle Tennessee. My name is Alex Curtis, and I represent the Greater Nashville Technology Council. We lock arms with sister cities in Memphis, Chattanooga, and Knoxville at their tech councils as well around advocacy. And workforce development is a major point that we are advocating for every day here in Tennessee. We represent about 550 member companies here in Middle Tennessee, and in our latest jobs report that we conducted with Memphis, the MTSU, the latest jobs report shows that there's an average of 3,600 open tech jobs per month over the past year. That represents a giant challenge for our Middle Tennessee's tech industry, but that's just Middle Tennessee. It's even larger across the state. What I want you to know is that there's hope, is that tech jobs pay almost twice the median wage in Middle Tennessee, and it's higher across the state. That means that a tech job can be a life-changing opportunity for an individual and a family-changing opportunity for more. That's why this legislation is so important, not only to fill those jobs, but to give Tennesseans more access and more opportunity, no matter who you are. We're working, as Meka said, with a growing coalition of organizations, and we are really just seeking to codify the Department of Ed's task force report. This is really to make it available to every high school student, and what the bill does is provide dollars for professional development for teachers in high school, provides planning dollars so that schools can plan ahead so they can meet this requirement, and then lastly, provides some professional development dollars for K-8 teachers so that they can start to integrate this tech teaching into their classrooms. We think it's tremendously important, as Chairman White just said in his previous with this previous bill, we want to make education, Tennessee, number one in education. And we're always looking to improve. We have opportunities here to improve. And we think that the dollars allocated here could provide a great opportunity for every student across the state. So we urge the committee to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committee, while we have our guest up here, does anyone have a question? Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So with the struggles we have in high school in Tennessee with mathematics, what do you potentially see our utilization rates in high school of students that can actually be successful in this so that they can move on to college and start applying those? Talk about what you project.
Sure. So I spent 19 years as a professional software developer. I can tell you from experience as a software developer that 99% of the software solutions I built only required high school level algebra. And so math in terms, while I'm a big proponent of math and I love it, right, that alone should not be a discouraging factor for any child seeking to pursue careers in computer science or in tech. And so we as young people begin to understand and hear that message, they will, we're optimistic that they will, recognize that this is an opportunity for them, that you don't have to be a math guru necessarily to do well in this space. We have an adult program in Memphis as well that trains adults to become entry-level software engineers, and we've taken people from average $15,000 a year to $51,000 a year. Most of them have tried college and it didn't work out for them, but they are successful software engineers today. And so that's the message I carry, that as more young people understand that they have opportunities in this space, you don't have to be the math nerd, as much as I love math.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you very much for that answer. The other question is, you briefly touched in your introduction about the word equity. Can you expand on that equity word and how it applies to this?
Sure. So when I speak of equity, I mean access for every child, every high school student, at least as described in this bill. And we are a both urban and rural state. And we've got more than 60 districts with just one high school. And the challenges, of course, is that a vast number of those rural districts in particular do not have access to computer science education. I come from Shelby County, where most of the high schools already have access to computer science education, have at least one class. But we believe that every child in every school should have that. We also have the reality that there are underrepresented groups in the space, and not just in the rural space, but also African Americans and the fast-growing Latinx community. And if we really need to reach into our bench, if you will, and step into the reality that of 7,000 or more open computing jobs today that average $80,000 a year in salary. That's a $560 million opportunity we're leaving on the table in terms of economic impact. And so really it's a question of equity, but it's really a question of workforce development and economic development for our state.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. I would probably urge you to shift the word to equality, that everybody has an equal opportunity whether they choose to or not. That's up to them. Equity is looking at the back end of the equation. I'd rather look at the front end, that if we're going to present an opportunity for someone, everybody has an equal opportunity to seize on that if they so desire. I think we're onto something here. I will tell you that I will struggle with the mandated part of this. I think we do better in Tennessee right now, where you prevent the opportunity for LEAs to see the benefit, and therefore as one LEA starts to pass the other, it presents competition, and competition may drive us to the point where we all like it. So I appreciate what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Harris.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So I'm also from Shelby County. I'm originally from Arkansas. So of course I did read where Arkansas has already done this measure as well. When I was in high school, I ended up taking a computer science course that led me to end up being a web developer and a graphic designer. So I do that on the side still. But my day job is human resources. I'm the director of human resources back home. And so we ended up having a load of positions that came available, and ended up there were some students that had taken the courses or summer program from Code Crew. And I ended up hiring 2 of them based off of that. That's the only experience that they had. They've done an amazing job. Just recently, one of them just got promoted into a management role. And so to know that the knowledge that they get from taking these courses, whether it's in school or outside of school, are beneficial. And so I will be supporting this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much as well, and that's wonderful to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and Mr. Apogrom-Gray. I hope I said that close.
Eguekwe, but it's fine, sir.
Thank you. I apologize. I support this effort, and I appreciate your comments that some of the rural districts are not in a position to offer computer science classes like some of the maybe the more urban things. And I think that's some of the concerns that my district directors have expressed. What I wanted to ask you is, as part of this program and plan, is there going to be a way where sort of the backers of this and the Department of Education maybe package together plans to help the local school district if they decide to try to implement it, or how they're going to implement it, sort of pick off the shelf, here's our course curriculum?
Sure. So what's described here is dollars for professional development to skill up teachers. So the biggest challenge here is not having enough teachers equipped to teach computer science. And and I'm sure that's almost universally true with our rural districts as it is all across the state. And so the professional development support here is to skill up those teachers such that they can go through professional development in the current way that it's done here in the state. As is now, through TSIN and so forth as a partner, and so that the Tennessee STEM Initiative as a STEM Innovation Network, as a partner, and so in terms of districts being able to have the teachers that they need, the fiscal note, at least as we had recommended, that smaller number would be more than sufficient to get them access to the professional development that they need, and with the idea that over 5 years' time and in an optional 6th year, we ought to be able to achieve computer science for all high schools. And maybe Alex has something to add.
I would add that there is an opportunity also to provide virtual schooling. And so all the lessons we learned this past year with so much virtual, there is a giant opportunity to provide some of this education virtually, especially for those schools that don't have the opportunity to kind of pool resources and put that together.
Yes, Representative Griffey.
Thank you very much, both of you, for those comments. And it certainly sounds like an exciting program. And when you hear about the jobs that are waiting, and the good paying jobs for our students, and once they get out of their educational K through 12, or if they decide to go post high school, it's an opportunity we don't want to miss, and we want to get Tennessee positioned to capitalize on some of those jobs. So I support this effort, and I just hope we can work it so we don't overburden our rural districts that I've gotten with some additional stuff, but I'm fully supportive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I don't see anyone else on our list, so thank you so much to our guests for coming and joining us and sharing with us today.
Thank you so much.
We are back in session. Chairman White.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank committee for your patience to present that. This is a program that I think the Tennessee we will get there. There's a lot of departs with the fiscal note, and as Representative Griffey pointed out, as far as we got to have qualified teachers. I've come to realize that everything has a season, and we're putting a lot on our districts right now with coming off this year of COVID, and so we need to work on this, and so I talked that to the sponsors of the bill, and we will continue to work on that. Obviously, Mecca he went to a different school of diction than I did, and he's quite articulate, and I love talking to him. But we will get there, but right now we'll take this bill off notice while we work on some of the issues as make this a very strong, workable bill for Tennessee.
Thank you, Chairman White. So with that, this House bill, I already lost it. We will take it off notice. Thank you. Let's go back on our calendars. House, number 3 on the calendar, House Bill 0535, Representative Hawk. I have a motion and second for you, sir, and I think I see an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Yes, we will be going with Amendment Tracking Code 5606.
Motioned and seconded. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you. And this is the amendment that will make the bill. This is charter school operators piece of legislation. The original charter school legislation in Tennessee is nearly 20 years old and has required some updating over the years to follow best practices improvements in the sector. One provision that has not been updated is at the heart of this particular bill. It is in identifying organizations that can provide management services to charter schools. Importantly, this bill makes no changes to not-for-profit ownership or sponsorship of public charter schools. House Bill 535, as amended, would remove the requirement that charter managers be nonprofits. It would adopt the universal name of education service provider and further strengthen the state's ability to protect quality. In 2002, 33 out of 43 states with charters have cleared the way for public charter schools to hire the very best and highest performing operator they can find, with tax status no longer being a determining factor. Tennessee is one of the 10 that has not. Several things are making a part of this, but this amendment and talking about performance measurements, there are four very important guardrails to protect Tennessee students from bad or underperforming actors in this field and to attract the best of the best where they're needed. Number one, the education service provider wanting to come to Tennessee must demonstrate academic growth over the past 5 years. That's in the amendment. No education service provider who has had a school closed or lost authorization for failure to perform academically in the last 5 years would be eligible to apply. Also, we will be able to confirm the quality of a new education service provider by requiring that they provide at least 2 letters of recommendation from current authorizers in states where they operate. And lastly, this bill would allow authorizers to prioritize applications to incentivize charter managers to serve students who would otherwise attend a priority bottom 5% schools or focus the bottom 10% of schools. This should encourage this state should encourage new charter managers to go where they are most needed. In a nutshell, that's what the bill and the amendment do, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and members. And be happy. There may be some folks who want to have their thoughts known on this legislation as well. Chair Lady and Chairman.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, anyone have any questions? Did you have some people here that wanted to speak on this?
I think there may be some individuals may want to speak from the one of the service providers who have provided services throughout the years. Forgive me, I don't have my notes with the young lady's name, but if we could go into recess to allow some testimony, I would appreciate that, Madam Chair and members.
I have a name, Megan, and I'm sorry, I didn't write it, so I can read my chicken scratch, but I can't read someone else's. So, and let me get us out of session so we can hear your testimony. We're out of session, and if you will, state your name and who you're with. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Megan DeCracker. I am with National Heritage Academies, or NHA. And thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, and members of the committee for the chance to speak with you today. NHA is an education service provider, and we partner with local nonprofit boards in 9 states to operate 96 schools, and we serve about 60,000 students. The majority of those schools are in our home state of Michigan, and we're really proud of the work we've been able to do there, especially in the city of Detroit, where we have 8 partner schools and 5 schools that serve a majority of Detroit students. Those schools outperform the local neighborhood schools where students would otherwise attend in math and in reading, and they're approaching the state average. So we're not just making a little difference, we're making a big difference in the lives of those students. Across our network of partner schools, 2/3 of students qualify for free and reduced price lunch. And we know that tells us how a child eats, not how they learn. But we know that sometimes there are correlations between that, and many students do come to us below grade level. About 2/3 of our students are also classified as minority. NHA was built on 4 pillars: academic excellence. We want every student to have the knowledge and skills they need to be successful. Most of our schools are kindergarten through 8th grade, a few high schools, but we really believe if a student is ready at the end of 8th grade, they go on to high school to be successful, and then they can choose college or career or whatever is next for them. But we believe that the work of literacy and math in the early grades is so important to make that happen. We also focus on parent partnerships. We want parents to be actively involved in the education of their children. We know that takes many different forms. It could be being in the classroom, it could be supporting from afar, but we want parents to know they're always welcome in our schools. We also focus on student responsibility. We believe that effort creates achievement, and we want students to know how much that they need to be working to own their own success. And finally, we focus on morals. And so our curriculum has a moral focus component that's built on cardinal virtues of justice, fortitude, temperance, and prudence. And we think that helps students to be smart and wise. We want students to have the character that they need to make good decisions in the rest of their lives. These pillars have helped us to create a really strong record of success. Our students regularly grow faster than the national average. And in 2018-19, the last year that we have data available, unfortunately, in these crazy times, our partner schools outperformed the local district in 75% of grades in math and 74% of grades in English language arts. So we think we're offering something to the communities that we serve. We're grateful to Representative Hawk for the bill he's brought forward that would allow Tennessee charters to choose from any high-quality education service provider, regardless of tax status. Now, just in case you think that I'm only sharing our own results, I want you to know that they've been validated by national groups. The University of Michigan did a study, and Credo out of Stanford has also done studies that validate how our schools have done. So the 74, which is a publication that's always telling me what a great job Tennessee is doing in terms of literacy, said that NHA produces substantial gains in student achievement compared to traditional public schools in Michigan. And Education Week also noted that these findings were intriguing because they run counter to a lot of the other research that might be out there on how schools that are managed by a for-profit provider perform. In the Credo study, researchers looked at students who attended our schools and students who attended a traditional district school, and they looked at a virtual twin. So that meant students who had all of the same characteristics. And we ranked in the top 20% of all charter operators, regardless of tax status. That study found that students received the equivalent of an additional 80 days of instruction in math and 60 days of instruction in reading, so about 3.5 extra months of learning in that time. We know right now that the students are really suffering from the global pandemic, and we expect that there are learning losses, and we would love to be a part of the solution to help meet those needs. We would love to bring our model to the students and families of Tennessee. As I said before, all of our schools partner with a local nonprofit board who provides oversight for NHA as their management provider. We're also accountable to the parents and students that would choose to attend the school, as well as the state accountability system and the authorizer. So there are levels of accountability for us. When we partner with a local nonprofit board to open and operate a charter school, we make an upfront investment, often to buy land and build a new facility or to renovate an existing facility that's really equipped for 21st century learning. We want to make sure that students have everything they need to be successful. This upfront investment is a contribution and not a loan, and since NHA was founded in 1995, we've invested over $500 million in local communities. In case you're wondering where the profits go, that's where they go, to the next school, to the next community. NHA partner schools serve as a beacon of hope to their communities. During the pandemic, our schools did have to close, but we did many things to stay engaged with our students and families, including regular outreach from teachers, calling families. We served over 1 million meals in the last school year. We provided Chromebooks for students, and if they didn't have wireless at home. We provided hotspots and other things for them to access materials, or we mailed packets to homes to provide multiple means for students to learn. I'm grateful for your time today and would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for that. And committee, do you have any questions for our guest? Yes, Chairman Zapicki.
Thank you, Chair Lady. How do you see your organization moving Tennessee education forward to where we want it to be? How are you going to do that for us?
Well, I know, Mr. Chair, that you have ambitious goals for the state of Tennessee, and we would love to be a part of that solution. We operate charter schools, and they tend to start kindergarten through 5th grade, and then grow to kindergarten through 8th grade or through 12th grade. And I really think that it is our instructional approach, our ability to close achievement gaps, and just the willingness to try something new. Sometimes having a new school in a community brings parents and families so much hope and allows them to really see more for their child. So we would like to bring hope as well as a proven curriculum and a way to serve students and families.
Yes, Chairman.
I assume your organization, if we decide to move anywhere on this one way or the other, be able to provide references to the state to make sure that we are getting what we think we're getting. And you know everything's timing here, timing in Tennessee. You know, Chairman White had his bill on the ASD, that the issues we're trying to resolve with that. Do you feel, and I'm sure there's going to be some people coming behind you, so we're going to hear pro and con here shortly. Do you feel that by coming to Tennessee, the challenges that we face in education, our literacy rates, our math scores, the overall situation with our schools, can you get us, does your organization feel confident that, one, you can get us to where we want to get to, and number two, you're going to be a partner with Tennessee to keep reinvesting back into Tennessee to move us forward?
Mr. Chair, yes, we can provide evidence of success from other states of how we've operated, and we'll be happy to do that. We would like to be a partner to the state of Tennessee, to students and families in Tennessee, and I understand very much the question of timing. I would say I started my career as an educator. I taught 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and I know sometimes those kids can't wait. And so we would love to hit the ground running and be able to be a partner to make a difference for students as quickly as we could.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I have Representative McKenzie next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You had talked earlier about turning the profits over. So are you saying that over the period that you all have existed, you all have turned 100% of the profits back into, reinvested those back into the next project, and there's not been any net?
That's the way that the model is designed to work, is that the funding that comes in is always paid forward for students in schools.
Okay. So is that something that, you know, in the fullness of time that you could provide to this body? Because this is a pretty, you know, it's a large ask. So is that data or information is something that's available?
NHA is a privately held company, so all of those financial records are privately held, and I'm not sure that we could provide exactly what you'd be looking for.
Okay. But it's your testimony that this aspect of, I don't know if it's multi-ventures or you have other, you know, business interests, but in terms of what every dollar you've gotten above operational cost over the entire period of the organization has been turned over to the next project or been reinvested into schools. That's what you're saying?
Typically, when NHA partners with a local board to start a new school, there is an upfront contribution to buy the land and build the building, and then the schools tend to start a little smaller, but we want to make sure students have everything they need. So there's often a big investment from NHA in the first few years of a school. I would expect it to be the same here in Tennessee.
Okay. I don't know if you were in the room earlier. We have these achievement school districts, which are, the poor performing schools, and 7, 8, 9 years later, some have done okay, some have done good, some haven't. So I guess my question to you, I heard the positive side of what you've done in Michigan and other places. Are there facilities, school systems that have not been successful since you all started into this type business?
Sure. We have, in our history, opened 97 schools, and 96 of them exist today. There was one school that opened in 2000 in Rochester, New York, and was closed in 2005 because it didn't meet its charter goals. And so we learned a lot from that experience, but that was an example of where we did have to have a school that was not extended.
So the other 96 are successful, I guess is what you're saying.
Yes, remain in operation to this day.
So I'm sorry your second part kind of, the first part, yes, is fine, but the second part, when you say remain in operation, I'll go back to these achievement school districts. They're all operational, but they're not operating, all 100% successful. And I don't know what those numbers are in Tennessee, but I just I'll ask it again. So of the 96 open schools, they've all been measured as a success.
The schools have all been measured as a success. There's always schools that have a tough year or, results aren't exactly where you want them to be, but our schools regularly get full-term renewals.
Thank you.
Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question for you. You said that you pay it forward. What is the investment that you're prepared to make in a Tennessee school if you were approved today? Or let's say, or for next year, what is that investment?
It's hard to estimate exactly what it is because I would need to understand exactly the community, but it's a typical multi-million-dollar investment to build the school. And then hopefully, if this were to pass and we were able to submit an application, we would submit a budget that would outline the investments we would make as well.
Thank you.
I see Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, lady, and thank you, Mr. Packer, if I pronounced that right. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Thank you for being here. I wonder, we were just talking about Tennessee has some achievement school districts and schools that are underperforming. It's where we'd like them to. Has your company ever engaged in third-party advisory roles? You guys indicate you feel like you've got a curriculum and standards level that create success for your students and your schools, and I just wonder if you have ever acted in a third-party advisory role or shared any of that information or maybe consulted with the state of Tennessee as a possibility of advising on some of our achievement school district schools. Thank you.
That's not something we've done to date, Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions while we have our guest up here? All right, seeing none, thank you. I do have another person on the list that I see in the room, Elizabeth Fiveash.
Hi, good morning, or good afternoon. Day has been
Long
long.
day.
Exactly. Elizabeth Fiveash, I'm the Chief Policy Officer with the Tennessee Charter School Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am speaking in opposition to House Bill 535. Since 2002, charter schools in Tennessee have been operated very successfully by nonprofit operators. And today, Tennessee has one of the strongest charter school sectors in the country, something that we're very proud of and certainly want to protect. Certainly, there are individual for-profit schools that might have pockets of success, but overall, data shows that for-profit operators do not have the same academic outcomes that nonprofit operators have. Credo was mentioned earlier, and in the same Credo report, it showed that nonprofit charter students experience growth equivalent to 23 additional days of instruction in math and 6 additional days in reading, and that's across sectors as a whole, not specific schools. Again, data specific to Tennessee shows that our current charter school operators, 40% of those schools are a level 4 or 5 TVOS, and that's in growth, compared to 29% of traditional public schools. So again, we feel that the charter sector in Tennessee is very, very strong. We have seen firsthand in other states that have opened the door to for-profit charters some of the challenges that they have faced, particularly with a lack of transparency around financial data. Again, the lower academic outcomes, particularly around student-teacher ratios. We see for-profit charters have a higher student-teacher ratio. They typically employ lower qualified teachers, again, with decisions being made around profit motives and not necessarily what's in the best interest of students. We want to make sure that we're protecting the charter sector in Tennessee. We certainly want to be engaged in the work around improving quality educational outcomes for students. Again, we operate very successfully in numerous counties right now, but largely in Davidson County and in Shelby County, and have seen great success in those areas. We know that there were quality measures that were mentioned in the legislation. However, those quality measures are only to be submitted to the school that is seeking the contract, not to the authorizer, who is currently the check for all quality measures for the nonprofit charter. So that's certainly something that's very concerning to us. Additionally, the legislation would, and I believe it's inadvertent, but would bar nonprofit CMOs from operating in the state, and so we want to make sure that that is addressed. We know that charter schools are a very important piece of providing high-quality public school options for students and families, and we really want to focus on growing and replicating the strong schools that we have, and so that is why we are in opposition to this legislation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for sharing that. Members, any questions for our guest? All right, seeing none, thank you so much for being here. I will gavel. I don't see, Roy Heron is on the list, but I do not see him. So that's the end of the guest list, so I will gavel us back in session. And Representative Hawk, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. And I do want to address a couple of points, if I could. I've been in and around business since I was 10 years old. And the primary goal of any business is profit. Even nonprofits get paid. They just distribute the dollars a little bit differently than other businesses do. There are a successful few folks who've been blessed with their business operations that they have the ability to spend their time and resources in benevolent causes, I'll call them. And this could be deemed as one of those opportunities, to be very frank. You've got folks that see a need and are able to take advantage of it. Because of their business model, they may choose to operate in a particular way. And I won't be specific, but my granddaddy used to keep a couple little side businesses that he was guaranteed to lose money on, just so he could write them off on his main business, and that's a part of it. But still had focus on those businesses that are at hand. So I understand the concerns that we're hearing, the structure of a potential organization that we're hearing, and I just wanted to put that out there for the committee to have consideration. Madam Chair and members, ironically, we had a caucus meeting this morning and discuss some cause and relation that could occur within our committee structure. Something I've learned over the course of time is how to count. And as I look at the members that are present today, I feel like this is a piece of legislation that we need further discussion on. Much as Chairman White had mentioned with some of his legislative initiatives that he's working on, I think that there's an opportunity to have broad discussion on this throughout the next several weeks, months even. With that, at this moment, I would move that we take this bill off notice.
Hang on. Do you have a question or comment? Did you have a question or comment? Since he used it. Huh? It's already done.
Okay.
Pardon me for that. And the bill will be taken off notice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought for a moment you might not recognize me there. So
Well, I saw a hand moving out of the corner of my eye, and I thought, oh, what is it? So thank you. We will honor your wishes.
and with the thought that we'll continue this discussion. So thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you. Committee. I thought I'd gotten all of Chairman White while he was up here, so my mistake, Chairman White. I skipped over number 12 on the calendar, House Bill 0755. Motion and seconded.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciate the intermission there, and taking up enough committee time. All
And you
right.
do have an amendment, I see?
Yeah, the amendment is 5174.
It's untimely. All right, there's a motion, seconded. Committee agree, all in favor? Aye. All right, now you may proceed with the amendment. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're in proper order.
Okay, I think I can do this in short order. It's a lot much simpler bill. It's brought to me by the state board. It has two objectives. One is that we're just aligning. There was a bill passed out previously by the administration dealing with, using Common Core as instructional materials. We've already done that, but this particular bill that we're trying to align, we don't want them to cancel out each other because we got conflicting dates in the code, and so basically does that. But mainly, it's just what we're doing is that whenever a LEA comes before the state board to ask for a waiver on the instructional materials, it goes to the state board, which then has to have the advice of the Department of Education through that process. And so this just gives clarity language to how the state board may get grant waivers on LEA textbook and instructional materials through the process. And with that, I believe that's pretty much the full explanation.
Thank you for that, and it's been brought to my attention that I need to let legal address us. Oh, excuse me. Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's been a clerical error in the untimely file amendment where two words need to be changed, and I'm going to defer to legal, Mr. Williams, to get us straight so we can get this verbal amendment on. No, not for him. You do?
All right. We're out of session to hear from legal. Thank you.
John Williams, Office of Legal Services. The changes would be, the first one in Section 2, subsection B, we'll change the word may to shall. And then in section 3, subdivision B1, we'll do this, make the same change from may to shall.
Thank you for that explanation. We go back in session. Now we need to adopt the verbal amendment. All in favor of adopting the verbal amendment as explained, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the amendment goes on the bill. All right, we'll get it straight. We're back on 5174 as amended. All of those in favor? Any opposed? All right, now, your amendment's on the bill. All right. We're going to roll the two amendments together. Roll them together. All right. All right, I think, are we all clear? Thank you. All right, Chairman White.
Thank you for doing my work for me. I appreciate that. And that's basically what the bill does. It just gives clarifying language to how the state board may grant waivers when we have LEAs asking for waivers through for their instructional materials. And it's brought to me by the state board. With that, renew my motion.
Yes, Chairman Sipicki.
Thank you. And then one of those amendments we made was replacing the word from may to shall, and that has to do with the compliance of the LEAs, that the commissioner knowingly finds somebody that has violated this section, that the commissioner has the ability to withhold BEP funds at her discretion. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I apologize. And I thought we had already put that in the amendment, but obviously, the speed we move around here, we missed that.
Any other questions? All right, question's been called. Members, all in favor of House Bill 755, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the bill passes, goes on to full.
Committee, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Committee, I'm going to take over the meeting now. We're going to be on House Bill 529 by Chairman Moody. I have a motion. Second? Do I have a second? Thank you. Chairman Moody, you are recognized.
I almost did in my own. Sorry. Thank you, committee and chairman. This bill will require requires 30 days prior to commencement of a sexual orientation or gender identity curriculum, each local education agency and public charter school to notify the parent or guardian of a student who is anticipated to be present for the instruction. And that's simply all it does. It just gives the parent an opt-out and requires the 30-day notification. And we do expect that this student's educational day would still continue. This is the one that would be opted out. And any other questions I'll take?
Representative Griffey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chair Lady, for bringing this legislation for us.
I'll come back.
That's okay. I want to say something about this subject matter. Look, I think we can all have differences of opinions on issues, but I think most Tennessee parents would like for sex education outside of abstinence, teen pregnancy prevention, STD preventions, that families would like to address that with their children, not the state government instructing our children about that subject matter. And so I applaud you for bringing this legislation. I support it. And I'm just trying to think, hopefully we can all respect each other's wishes as a whole, rather than one side or other side trying to push their agenda on our kids. So thank you very much.
Chairman Dixie.
My question is, it says, does this include, like he said, sex ed? Is that included in this?
Chairlady Moody.
Thank you. My bill deals strictly with when they teach this particular subject.
I'm just confused. I'm just for clarification. Is it sex education that we're talking about, that subject, or just anything that? Well, just answer that question first, I guess. So I don't want to confuse myself.
If they choose to bring up the let me say it exactly as it's written, of a sexual orientation or gender identity curriculum, the parent needs to be notified within 30 days to be able to choose if they want to opt out their child.
So let me ask you, give you a scenario, and you tell me if I'm on the right track, because I want to make sure that I understand what we're doing here. So if you're in English class and you were going to read something by James Weldon Johnson, who's openly gay, is that something that a teacher would have to give 30 days notice to because he was gay? I don't know.
Chairlady Moody.
I think the intention for this instruction would be in the sex education realm.
Okay.
But I'm not familiar with that work. So if he gets
Clear as
into
mud.
how to, I would say
No,
they need to be able to opt out. The parent needs to know that that's the kind of literature they're putting in front of their children.
Oh, no, it's not a how-to. I just say, because in here it says they're referring to the sexual orientation or gender of any historic person, group, or public figure. So that's what brought that question.
I got you.
All right, but, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Question's been called. Any opposition to the question being called? All those in favor of House Bill 529, moving on to full education instruction, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Ayes have it. You are on to the full committee. Members, we are out of time at this time. Chairlady Weaver, I am sorry. We have another committee coming in right behind us. When we do the agenda, the calendar for next week, you'll be first on the agenda. All right. Motion to adjourn. Motion set. We are adjourned. What?